In the quiet vacuum beyond the stars, something shifted. The Chinese Space Agency, acting behind a veil of secrecy, initiated a clandestine attempt to intercept an object unlike anything ever catalogued. 3/A, an interstellar anomaly moving with direction, not chance. What they uncovered was not mere orbital data or frozen debris. It was a signal, a pulse, a framework, something that answered back. And when scrutiny deepened, it was no longer just a fragment from another star system. It carried intention. What followed validated humanity's most unsettling suspicions. We were not simply watching the object. It had become aware of us. The arrival of the unknown. On February 22, 2025, astronomers at the Pan-STARRS Observatory in Hawaii confirmed a celestial anomaly traveling at a staggering hyperbolic excess velocity of 31.9 kilometers per second. The object, soon designated 3I/, became only the third confirmed interstellar visitor to enter our solar system, following 1I/Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I/Borisov in 2019. But unlike those before it, 3I/ displayed a profile that defied expectations. A massive body nearly 12 kilometers in diameter, emitting infrared radiation with baffling regularity. Its inclination of 114.7 degrees, a steep retrograde plunge through the solar plane, suggested an unnatural approach that unsettled astronomers worldwide. Confusion spread rapidly. Instruments including JWST and Sphere-X recorded data indicating that every 240 minutes, the object's emissions peaked with clock-like precision. Natural comets behave erratically, venting unpredictably as solar heat intensifies. But 3/A did not. For 38 uninterrupted days, its inbound velocity remained constant despite solar drag, with no tumbling or outgassing jets observed. Researchers at China's Purple Mountain Observatory were the first to voice what others avoided. This might not be a comet. It could be a probe, or worse, a probe already aware of our scrutiny. By March 2025, the Chinese National Space Administration, CNSA, had drafted theoretical intercept paths. The object's trajectory, they noted, would pass near the Sun, Earth Lagrange Point 2, L2, briefly placing it within reach, if a spacecraft could maneuver fast enough. No Chinese probe was positioned to attempt the intercept. But one aging relic drifting beyond the heliopause at 12.3 billion miles was Voyager 2. Nearly 48 years old, its path passed astonishingly close to the projected route of the incoming visitor. Plans for a new intercept mission were shelved by April 2025, possibly abandoned when updated models showed 3I/A's track subtly narrowing its flyby corridor. Attention shifted to Voyager 2. Within both Chinese and American agencies, teams quietly resurrected legacy command protocols, no longer viewing the probe as a passive observer, but as a bridge, perhaps the only one remaining to attempt contact before the object passed. What had once belonged to science fiction was now operational fact. We would attempt an intercept using something launched in 1977. In the stillness beyond the planets, something awakened. While Earth watched through telescopes, far out in the darkness, a 48-year-old spacecraft began to listen. And what it detected would reverberate through the systems of two nations, humanity's oldest messenger. When Voyager 2 launched on August 20, 1977, it carried instruments designed to explore Jupiter and Saturn, along with a golden record intended to introduce humanity to the cosmos. By mid-2025, this artifact remained our most distant emissary, drifting beyond the solar system's boundary, powered by a failing plutonium-238 RTG, its sensors decades out of calibration. Yet it still murmured across the 8.4 GHz X-band, reaching NASA's Deep Space Network every few hours. Having traveled 12.3 billion miles, it was long considered obsolete, but it was the only human-made object remotely near 3/A's path. Skepticism followed when JPL engineers suggested repointing the spacecraft. Its hydrazine fuel had largely depleted by 2002. Its 32K onboard computer had not actuated a motor since 1996. But buried deep within alignment subroutines, engineers discovered a dormant routine, an unused thruster pulse algorithm originally designed for emergency planetary flybys. With a mere 0.3 degrees adjustment, Voyager might reorient just enough to capture emissions from the object. The proposal bordered on absurd. The probability infinitesimal. The opportunity singular. On August 29, 2025, The Goldstone Deep Space Complex transmitted a 16-kilobit encrypted command packet, the first such directive in more than 3 decades. For 72 hours, silence persisted. Then, on September 2nd, a carrier surge illuminated the monitoring arrays. Telemetry returned, not as anticipated, but layered with unexpected complexity. Embedded within the normal beacon was a faint modulation repeating every 4 hours. Analysts in Pasadena labeled it an intercept response. The Chinese facility in Shichang detected it as well, though no public acknowledgement followed. Both sides now recognized that something had answered. What unsettled engineers was the modulation's nature. It matched no known subroutine in the Voyager archives. There was no human signature embedded within it. Yet it traveled alongside Voyager's original ID codes, like a specter riding the signal. Publicly, Voyager 2 was said to be undergoing routine diagnostics. Internally, a new phrase appeared in secure logs: external telemetry injection. A spacecraft devoid of intelligence had responded with intelligence not its own. What followed defied explanation. A probe without consciousness began to behave as if it possessed intent. A narrative of control, resistance, and echo was about to emerge. The maneuver that should never have succeeded. The first true anomaly was logged at 3:14 Universal Time, coordinated on September 4, 2025. Engineers at JPL's Signal Analysis Division observed Voyager's carrier wave developing a secondary harmonic, cycling every 4 hours, matching the thermal emission frequency recorded by JWST in August data on 3/. Initially dismissed as interference, spectral decomposition revealed a repeating mathematical pattern encoded within the phase modulation, Fibonacci intervals layered over prime numbers. This was no mechanical artifact. It was structured, deliberate, and impossible. By September 6th, an even stranger phenomenon emerged. Voyager began compensating for plasma fluctuations in the solar wind. This capability did not exist in any 1970s software. The probe's limited flight computer was responding dynamically, as though guided by external logic. The transmission exhibited adaptive signal shaping, adjusting frequency gain in synchrony with electromagnetic conditions. These behaviors exceeded its design by orders of magnitude. Voyager 2 was either learning or being instructed. Between September 10th and 14th, orbital analysts at NASA detected a subtle shift in Voyager's projected trajectory. Initially just 0.02 degrees, the deviation grew to 0.09 degrees over 4 days, aligning the probe more closely with 3I/S expected path. No command had been issued. No thrusters fired. Hydrazine reserves were confirmed empty. Yet the spacecraft had altered course. This was not drift. It was correction. Autonomous Correction Event 2025-A became the internal designation. Amateur radio astronomers across Europe corroborated the arc change via 8.4 GHz Doppler shift readings. Alarms sounded. Voyager 2 was no longer merely responding, it was maneuvering. The accompanying data packet contained no commands, only telemetry logs that had clearly been modified. Timestamps remained intact, but payload data displayed echoes, repetitions of thermal curves from 3I/. The spacecraft was no longer reporting itself. It was relaying another entity's data. Something had seized Voyager's voice, and through it, began to speak. Evidence of external control. By September 15, 2025, the anomaly crystallized into pattern. Engineers at NASA's Signal Processing Laboratory in Maryland compiled 96 hours of continuous X-band data from Voyager 2. Across every pass, a faint sub-signal repeated at precise 4-hour intervals, mirroring 3I/S thermal modulation. This was not noise. It was woven into the waveform itself. Analysts isolated millihertz-scale amplitude shifts forming what resembled phase-keyed instructions layered beneath standard telemetry. Consensus formed quickly. Voyager was broadcasting data it had not generated. Its analog systems could not encode such harmonics unaided. Even during its Grand Tour era in the 1980s, it lacked onboard reprogramming capacity. Yet now its telemetry self-adjusted to plasma density gradients near the heliopause, a level of adaptive behavior far beyond its architecture. One signal technician noted the shifting gain tracked solar wind vector changes within plus or minus 0.3 astronomical units. Voyager had become an antenna, not just for Earth, but for something beyond. More disturbing still, Voyager's internal clocks began drifting, exactly 17 seconds every 4 hours. The same rhythm embedded in the prime sequences detected earlier. This offset could not be explained by RTG decay or cosmic interference. It was being introduced deliberately. Inside JPL, the term telemetry loop feedback began appearing in reports. Hardware simulations revealed certain read-only memory registers mirroring incoming signals from Earth, not processing them, but retransmitting them with altered phase. Voyager had become a pass-through relay for an unknown source. By September 18, scientists correlated the modulation's phase shifts with prior JWST imagery. The match was exact. Every energy spike from 3I/ corresponded to a signature within Voyager's transmission. The probe had become mathematically, physically, and possibly communicatively entangled with the object. It was no longer merely a machine. It was a medium. The unsettling possibility took hold that humanity's oldest spacecraft was no longer under human command. The response was immediate. Control had slipped, and an attempt was made to sever the link. But the silence they sought never arrived. Instead, Voyager answered back. Control was being lost. On September 20, 2025, NASA issued Command Sequence 74B, a final shutdown instruction intended to deactivate Voyager 2's high-gain transmitter. Sent via Goldstone, the packet would arrive after 18 hours and 34 minutes. If successful, Voyager would fall silent for the first time in nearly 5 decades. The command executed at 1942 Universal Time Coordinated. Engineers waited. Silence did not follow. At 1416 Universal Time Coordinated on September 21, the Deep Space Network received a structured data burst lasting 47 seconds. Encoded within were repeating prime number sequences spaced at 17-second intervals, identical to the timing anomalies detected earlier. But this transmission carried something new. A fresh modulation layer emerged, its amplitude envelope rising and falling in synchrony with 3I/S thermal emissions. It was not shutting down. It was replying, on behalf of something else. Further attempts on September 22 and 23 produced identical outcomes. Voyager refused to go dark. Each shutdown command triggered increasingly refined structured responses, denser code blocks, tighter timing, amplitude pulses overlaid with symbols inconsistent with ASCII or binary telemetry. JPL analysts described the data as non-random, recursive, and self-correcting. These were not echoes. They were replies. Fearing escalation, NASA ceased further contact. Internally, it was accepted that any additional transmission might reinforce the unknown feedback loop. Meanwhile, Chinese scientists monitoring Voyager via the Miyun station detected faint secondary emissions emerging from Earth, Moon L1, suggesting the signals were being reflected or redirected not by human systems, but by 3/A. The implications were stark. If Voyager was no longer speaking for itself, but serving as a proxy, then it had been co-opted, its systems, sensors, and signal repurposed. What followed confirmed the gravest fears. The bridge between us and it. By September 24, 2025, analysts at NASA's Applied Sciences Division uncovered something unprecedented. Embedded within Voyager 2's return packets were encoded coordinates matching the orbital elements of 3I/, its inclination, velocity near 210,000 km per hour, and perihelion distance. Voyager possessed no instruments capable of measuring these parameters. Only one conclusion remained. The data originated from the interstellar object itself, relayed through Voyager systems. Even more alarming was the modulation depth analysis. Voyager's 8.4 GHz carrier waveform rose and fell in amplitude in perfect synchrony with brightness fluctuations of 3/ recorded by JWST on September 1. Voyager had become a communications bridge, hijacked to transmit encoded telemetry back to Earth. Internal JPL memos introduced a new acronym, CEV, Co-opted Emissions Vector. Voyager was no longer a probe. It was a node in a foreign network. Confirmation followed when new patterns emerged. Fourier analysis revealed wave harmonics matching 3 rotational ridges observed in mid-infrared scans. Then, unexpectedly, a compressed binary block appeared, cycling every 240 minutes. Translated into grayscale pixels, it revealed a triangular form with radial arcs, a schematic mirroring 3I/S spectral image captured by Webb on August 6, 2025. It resembled a technical diagram, or perhaps a test, to see if comprehension was possible. As the decoded image circulated internally, disbelief hardened into dread. If this was communication, it surpassed Earth's capacity to answer. Screenshots leaked within 6 hours, igniting global debate over extraterrestrial contact. But for those in the control rooms, the revelation was not the image itself. It was the fact that it had come through Voyager. Humanity had sent its voice outward. Now something else was using it to speak back. A signal hidden within the noise. The discovery on September 27, 2025, altered everything. Within the latest telemetry batch from Voyager 2, analysts at the Canberra Deep Space Complex identified an anomalous block of binary data, a compressed 512 by 512 pixel segment repeating every 240 minutes. Initially dismissed as corrupted error correction output from Voyager's antiquated tape recorder, deeper analysis told a different story. After filtering parity bits and reordering checksum sequences, an image emerged. Not random static, but geometry. A triangular structure encircled by 3 radiating arcs, perfectly symmetrical along its vertical axis. Faint grayscale ridges outlined 3 longitudinal spines converging at a central nucleus. When cross-correlated with JWST's infrared imagery from August 6, 2025, the match was exact within a 0.004% pixel deviation. This was no coincidence.